Well, the first thing that I want to say is I wish I could be with you in person. There is nothing that I love more than to sit with somebody one-on-one or speak to a group where I can see your faces as I tell the story, raise awareness, and hopefully equip you in what I'm going to be talking about today. My name is Kathrine Lee, and I am the founder of Pure Hope Foundation. And I want to share with you my story, hopefully weave in some lessons, and then tell you how you can make a difference. See, 21 years ago, I had one of those days that changed my life forever. I don't know if you've ever had one of those, but everything's going along just fine and then something happens. Well, for me, it was the day that I heard the words, "Kelly and the baby died last night." What I was being told is that my 31-year-old friend, who was 9 months pregnant, had had an aortic aneurysm, and we lost her and her baby. And this and everything I've done forward is for their legacy, that there would be purpose to that pain. I went home from their funeral, I got down on my knees, I cried out to a God that I have to admit I didn't even believe in anymore. But I didn't know what to do with that moment. And so I cried out, I said, "What do you want me to do with this? And if you're real, please prove it." Well, I love to say God's been a show off ever since. And it began as I got up off my knees after that time of surrender saying, "I will follow you if you will prove that you're real to me." And so the first thing that was in my heart was to live expectantly. I remembered, "Seek and you will find." And I thought, I will live expectantly. Second is I heard pure hope whispered in my heart. I don't know how to explain it, but I knew it meant something. Number one, my name, Kathrine Nadine, means pure hope. But I also knew in that moment that we were all designed from the beginning of time with a purpose in mind. Now, I didn't know what pure hope meant, but I just kept following God, seeking Him, asking for His direction in life through reading His Word. And I began to get stronger. I began to see how to make decisions well. And I began to move forward. And God began to bless my life in a way I can't even describe. But that pure hope was always there in my heart. I began to do all sorts of amazing things. God opened up platform and opportunities to me. I wrote curriculums. I did speeches all over the world, but nothing was sacred enough for pure hope. But then one day I met a man on a plane. I was flying. I don't like to talk when I fly, so I had on my headphones and a book in my lap, everything that says, don't talk to me. And this man came on the plane, and I thought I was safe because, men don't typically chit-chat on an airplane, but he tapped me on my shoulder. I gave him a brief, "I don't want to talk," quick answer. He tapped my shoulder again. I did the same thing, but the third time I heard that still small voice that I had come to know directing my life say, "Talk to him." And so I took off those earphones and I began to talk with this man. And about halfway through the flight, oh my gosh, we were laughing. We were just having the best time. He was smart and handsome and charismatic. He was a leader. He was obviously successful in life. And he told me that when he got on that plane, he had seen that Bible and faith-based book in my lap, and he knew he wanted to talk to me. Now, at this point, I didn't know that. I just was thinking, oh my gosh, now I know why I wanted to talk to him. God, you wanted me to talk to him because I'm going to set him up with one of my single girlfriends. This guy is amazing. And he told me that he set me up that time so that I would ask him one question. I said, "So tell me, what do you do?" And he said, "I own the second largest pornography company in the world." Well, of course, I was shocked, right? I think often we don't put ourselves in positions where we think we won't know the answers because we think we won't know what to say. But you know what? God did. God immediately responded through me. I have learned when I don't know what to do, I pause and I pray to get perspective, to give God precedence over the situation. And so I just started talking to him. I said, "Really? Tell me about that." Now, he told me later that he saw that Bible and faith-based book on my lap, and he thought it would be funny to see the Bible lady, the church girl, talk to him, like him, and then shock me with this pornography thing, the fact that he owned a pornography company. And he said, "But Kathrine, instead you met me with love, grace, and curiosity, and I didn't know what to do with you." And so as we began to talk, I asked him about his life, I asked him about it, and I finally brought it around. I said, "So tell me, how is it that you get the girls?" Now, this is really important. I want everyone to listen to this piece because this is what he said. He said, "Oh, that's easy. We just send out scouts to malls and high schools, and we tell them to look for girls with daddy issues. Oh, that broke my heart, because I was a girl with daddy issues at one point in my life, until I remedied that with the father that wasn't always there for me the way he wanted to be, the way he probably deep in his heart would have preferred to be, but didn't know how, or chose otherwise. But the truth of the matter is I had gotten to know my Heavenly Father, and I knew I was loved. I knew my identity, but I knew at any moment I could have been one of those girls at one time in my life, because I didn't understand my value and I didn't understand my worth. And that's what they were capitalizing on. And as we began to talk, I said, can I challenge you on something? And he said, sure. See, I think I earned the right to be heard, because I just sat and listened to him and tried to understand him. And then he said, when I said, may I challenge you on something? I said, I'm just curious. I hear you've justified what you do. This frontal lobe of our brain is our seat of choice, that place that we make decisions out of. And I said, I understand that you have chosen this, but I'm curious if in your heart, ever in the middle of the night, if your hero's heart ever rises up, because I believe that all men are meant to be the protectors of women. And I am just curious if in the middle of the night, your hero's heart ever rises up on their behalf. Well, then he turned and he looked out the window. Mister, I have an answer for everything. Couldn't answer me. And when he turned back around, he started telling me about his wife and his daughter and his divorce. And I said, oh no. And he said, what? And I said, so your daughter has daddy issues. He physically shook. He took a breath and he physically shook. He had never considered his own daughter could be a target. When we were done with that flight, he said to me two things that I'll never forget. He said, number one, Kathrine Lee, I don't think I'll ever sleep quite the same again. And I said, oh, good. And he laughed and I laughed. And then he said, can I get your card? Because I think someday my girls may need you. And in that moment, after 20 years, I knew what Pure Hope was for. And it wasn't about pornography. It was about raising up the heroes' hearts of men. It was about uniting the voices of women again, that we would stop competing with each other and start completing a work that only the united voices of women can do. That we would know who we are, our worth and our value and our identity. And as I started looking into pornography and the issues around that and how that affects men and how that affects women, I started looking at the fact that pornography is the rocket fuel, the jet fuel for the demand of sex trafficking. And sex trafficking, I was shocked, was the number 2 criminal industry in our country and the fastest growing. Human trafficking is the second largest criminal industry in our country and the fastest growing. And so much of that is fueled by the addictive properties of pornography. It traffics the heart of men before it traffics young women. And I thought, I have to do something. I have to step up. And what's so interesting is, if you notice here in the background, there's a picture of a lot of different shoes, because what I've learned is that all of us can step up and do something with this issue. We can make a difference in our own households. Women, one of the things that I learned about this issue of trafficking, when they send out scouts to high schools and malls and now even online, the first thing that they teach these scouts is to compliment a girl. And if she squares her shoulders and says thank you and quits and cuts off communication, if it's online, or walks on if it's in person, they tell those scouts she's no longer a target. But if she looks down and pushes the compliment away or wants to continue the conversation, they say keep going after her. See, we're hungry for validation because we don't understand our value and our worth, and we have to teach our young girls that they're worthy, that they're okay. See, that compliment test is one action step that you can all take. You women can say thank you when somebody gives you a compliment and square your shoulders. Men, you can be a hero and compliment young women and your wives and women in your life, and not just for their looks, but for all of who they are. And when we learn our worth and how to respect each other, and women, when a man compliments you, say thank you. And go ahead and move on if you don't know them. But if it's a man in your life, value and respect him too. See, together, united, we are stronger. And as we can really make ourselves stronger, we are going to make a difference. And so for me, that step up was more than the compliment test. It was more than pouring value into men and identity into women. It became about, what else can I do in this issue of trafficking? My heart broke over this issue. I would sit in my prayer chair every day trying to pray for the normal things in life, the hard things in life even, but God would show me the Isaiah 61, that he came to bind up the brokenhearted and to set the captives free and to proclaim a year of freedom, that it is time for freedom. And I thought, well, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And I won't go into all the details here, but what I knew, my husband and I had always taken our success and we held it out to God as a sacrifice. We said, we'll take care of this success for you, but we're going to hold it out and we're going to say, you did this. What do you want us to do with it? You did this. What do you want us to do with it? Yes, we're taking care of it, but you own it. And so what do you want us to do? And we knew at that time that it was time to sell our home and begin to look for a ranch, a place where people could be fully restored, where men could learn to be men again, women could learn to be women, and then children could be children, a place where families could be strengthened, but also a place where we could restore victims of trafficking. Because I learned along the way the few challenging things in this continuum of care with trafficking. First of all, we need to rescue these girls. We need to look at them differently than we do. There is no such thing as a child prostitute. And even if a woman is over 18, there's no little girl that says when they're little, I want to grow up and be a prostitute. Somewhere they were betrayed, somewhere their hearts were trafficked. And we have got to do something to show them their worth as we know ours. But the other part was, the rescue is there, but we also have to do the prevention of raising up the heroes' hearts and having women have value. And as we move down to the rescue, the next thing is the stabilization. And I realized that there are so many frontline organizations that are isolated and they're catastrophically underfunded and they're catastrophically overworked. They're exhausted. Many are not equipped. They have huge hearts that are broken for this issue, but they've never been taught and trained, and they certainly don't get time for reprieve where they can be poured back into, where they can be trained and equipped and have a time where they can breathe again because they're so busy in this work. And I thought those people need to be restored and renewed so they can go back to the fight that they're so boldly and proudly fighting. But we've got to equip them and train them and get them funding. And then the next part was the fact that, yes, we can rescue a girl and we can stabilize her and we can pour into her, but stats say that about 80% of these women will go back. Well, why is that? It is because we give them about a year, 6 months to a year to heal, and then they either age out or time out or grow out of their program because they're in with girls that are being stabilized and just rescued. Well, that can trigger somebody that's a year down the line to seeing their old patterns. I mean, we've all been there. Right? We've all been where we're growing and then all of a sudden something triggers us that feels familiar, or we see someone else in that pain and we can go back there again. We need to give them more time to heal. I mean, let's be honest, women, someone has probably said something to you that hurts your feelings. And how long did it take you to get over it? Some of you still aren't over it. And the truth of the matter is these women have had horrible things said over them over and over again while they're being raped for profit. Day after day, many, many, many times a day. And we need to give them everything they need to heal and know their identity again, and give them the time and the support coming out. And so that's what Pure Hope Foundation, we saw that was our niche. We were going to raise awareness and do the prevention part by strengthening families, bring people to the awareness of those frontline workers and educate and hold retreats so that they can be restored and renewed and equipped to go back and out and do their work. But then Pure Hope Foundation would create these next stage homes where these women could come for another year or more of healing, where they could get vocational and educational training. They could get all sorts of therapy, ecotherapy, not just talk therapy, but life skills. And ecotherapy means being out in nature, where they could have equine therapy with all sorts of animal therapy, because it heals our heart and it heals our brain when we are in nature. And so all of these things with the vocational educational training is what Pure Hope Foundation and our Hope Homes are all about. And we work in partnership with those frontline rescues, because without them, There is no rescue. Without us, there may not be any full restoration and identity where these women can stand on their own, clothed in strength and dignity. So I just want to say to you, when I first started out, I had a total crisis of faith. I have to admit, it sounds like I've got this huge heart and everything just one after another, but that is not true. It has been hard, but it has also been the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. And whatever it is that you're going to do, sometimes this is a hard issue to look at, but what I want to tell you is it's worth engaging in. But in my crisis of faith, I just want to share this story with you to just affirm and confirm that even when we are afraid if we will move anyway, it'll be confirmed that we're doing the right thing. And for me, I had a total crisis of faith. We had put our house on the market. We got on the road and we're doing a speaking tour. I was sharing just 5 minutes of a personal development talk that I was doing about creating a lifestyle and leaving a legacy that we can, meet our needs, but we can also have our desires and we can leave a legacy. And I would talk about how you can do that with $5 a month. You can leave a legacy, or you can do it in a huge, big way, but it's all big. And I would talk about Pure Hope Foundation and share a board that just had pictures of what the future looked like. Well, people were responding everywhere. Well, that scared me. It was one thing for me to do this, my husband to do it, our family to sacrifice, but it was a whole nother thing for people to be watching and pouring in. And I don't know why, but that put me to this place of crisis of faith. Like, this is just too big. It's too much. I can't handle it. And my husband, Michael, I was in a spin and I said, call the realtor, take the house off the market. And he said, honey, why don't you pray? Why don't you ask God for confirmation? I see you're in that crisis of faith. And so I did. There's a story in the Bible of a man named Gideon that was called to do something bigger than himself. And he got to that crisis of faith and said, not me, I'm the least of these. But he did have enough faith to put out a fleece. And what that means is it was a piece of material where he said, God, please confirm this. And he asked God to make it dry and the ground wet, and then he would know it was God. And then he said, okay, well, maybe that wasn't quite you. Have you ever had a confirmation, but it's still hard? So you're like, oh, maybe that wasn't it. And so he asked for another one, and he asked for the opposite to happen. And I don't know which came first, ground dry and the material wet, or vice versa. But the truth is that God confirmed it in two ways for Gideon. And I asked God, please give me my fleece. Please prove that this is you. And I went on to my next event, and sure enough, I'm sharing about Pure Hope Foundation, that small segment in this long talk, and people are crying and they're passing notes and they're offering to help. And these women in the front row said, will you come over here and talk to us when we were done? And I said, sure. And they said, we're so sorry we were passing notes and talking. We know that was rude. And I said, no, it's okay. And they said, no, you don't understand. And I said, what? And they said, we are all victims of sex trafficking. We got a day pass to hear you today. We need exactly what you're establishing. Our first line program is over in 3 months, and we don't know where we're going next. And here's the most amazing part, is they said, the worst part of everything that we went through was not the beatings. It wasn't the rate for profit every day over and over again. It was thinking that no one cared. I will never forget that. It is time that we step up and let these people know we care. It is time to make a difference. Again, this is why the shoes are there. Whether you're a businesswoman, whether you're a businessman, whether you're a child and you just are raising awareness in your community, whether you're a sports type of a person and you want to do a fundraiser for fundraising with a run, whatever it is, use what you've got and make a difference in your community and join and partner with us. You can go to our Facebook page at Pure Hope Foundation, and we will give more ways to strengthen your family and more opportunities to restore victims of trafficking. Together, we can make a difference. We all just need to step up. And one of the ways that you can do that is we have a campaign called the 1,000 Welcomes Campaign, where when these girls come home, they see these bricks. For every person, organization, group that has given $1,000. Now, I want to be clear, $1 makes a difference. But if you want to gather together with your friends, or you have margin in your bank account to give $1,000, you will have a brick on a pathway where these girls are going to walk that says, welcome home from. It could be welcome home from the Lee family, welcome home from this organization or that organization. But what it does is say, welcome home. It lets them know someone cared before you ever even knew their name or their story. You cared. So some people get 10 friends together to give $100. Some people get 100 friends to give 10. Some people have the margin to do it their own. And some people can just give it their time and talent, or they can just raise awareness and share something that I shared today with you with someone else. But the key is step up, step up, step up. Let that beat like a heartbeat in you. Step up, do something to make a difference.